Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And if this doesn't drive you bonkers, I don't know what will. Bosses in the NHS have just been handed extraordinarily large pay rises because their reviews said that they were outstanding and brilliant at their job. And that meant it automatically kicked in these big pay rises. No big pay rises for nurses, no big pay rises for doctors. Hospitals are falling apart. There's no maintenance. They haven't got the money to build new ones. They haven't got the funding. They can't get the staff. Massive problems everywhere in the NHS. But hey, don't worry. The bosses have netted themselves a big pay rise. Sheer madness. And who is paying for it? And why is it happening? At a time of austerity, at a time when people are dying on waiting lists, why should these bosses get big pay rises? It's not right, it's not fair, and it goes against anything that is in any way moral or ethical. Let's take a look at this and see why everyone is forced to pay for this level of bad service. Here goes. So, shock as struggling NHS Scotland bosses net big pay rises after being labelled outstanding in reviews. Now we need to put some context on here. This is the review rise. This is over and above their annual increase. So they get their sort of index linked increase regardless. And then this is the little bonus increase on top if they've done a good job. Now, who assesses them? Well, will it come to a surprise if I told you that they get assessed by each other? No, I didn't think so. The Scottish Government were urged to explain why bosses at Scotland's struggling health service boards were being praised in their appraisals when the NHS was in chaos. Oh yes, we're all marvellous, we're all brilliant. Oh yes, Jim was marvellous, we're brilliant. Oh yes, top marks and all that, right? All this, tick, 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 all the way down the box so that everyone gets their 3% rise for being, outstanding. They were brilliant. People died, yes, there were issues. People were dying in corridors or in ambulances sitting in the car park. No, we're massively understaffed. No, we can't recruit anyone. Yes, the hospital maintenance is behind schedule. No, we are closing wards because of infection. But we, ourselves, in terms of running this, we were exceptional. How do I know? Well, I assessed him as being exceptional, and he assessed me as being exceptional. And that way, as well as our recent 6% pay rise, we've got a little bonus 3% because we were outstanding. No money going to the hospital, but hey, they don't care. Long struggling Scots who are floundering on NHS waiting lists will be shocked to discover that health service bosses could be netting big pay rises due to reviews which label them superior and outstanding. It's been claimed. Despite the chaos in the NHS, those at the top are still being praised by officials. We previously told how the health service is fighting for its life, as stats show that it is failing patients. Well, we know every week they release the patient stats for waiting lists, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And of course, now you've got Neil Gray running it, it's going to get even worse. You thought Matheson was bad. Gray is so out of his depth, he is literally drowning because he hasn't got a clue what he's doing. That's why you've heard very little from him, of course. He doesn't know. He's sitting, hiding, stimming, like that in a corner because he's just overwhelmed with it. Anyway, delayed discharges and the time patients waited in A&E have both increased, as did the amount of operations cancelled, with January bringing about a record with the number of people waiting more than 12 hours to be seen by a doctor after presenting at the hospital's emergency department, and it's the highest it's been since records began. And yet, with all this, these guys are superior. They are outstanding. Their performance appraisals, which of course are linked to their pay rises. These are going through, despite the Scottish Government being forced to step in and have formal oversight of 6 NHS boards due to poor performance in areas such as finance and leadership. So they're coming in and they're saying these boards are behaving so badly that they're awful, we're going to control them. Meanwhile, the guys on the boards that are controlling the boards are, oh, well, you're wonderful, you're outstanding, tick, tick, have your pay rise. Better idea, fire them all. Fire every single one of them and get people in at a third of the wage, and then tell them that if they can bring waiting list down 10%, they'll get a pay rise. If they can increase the number of operations, they'll get a pay rise. Put them on a low and give them a target and see what happens. Anyway, appraisals of the executive's performance are carried out by a remuneration committee and then checked by a national performance management group, with this data being released to the BBC Scotland under the Freedom of Information requests. Now, the remuneration committee is part of the board, the health board. So what you're saying is the bosses of the health board are telling people that they employ to do an appraisal on how good the bosses are. How do we think this is going to work out? It is marking your own homework in the worst possible way. Anyway, the reviews are linked to pay increases, which range from 0 for unacceptable to 3 for outstanding. Already, the chief executives of health boards net themselves anywhere between £100 and £197,000. As I say, this isn't the pay rise. This is their performance-related rise. They have a standard pay rise as well. Index linked. Thank you very much. How much do they need to earn? 5 health boards refused to supply the data. Tayside, Dumfries and Galloway, Orkney, Shetland and the Western Isles, with them citing personal details concerns. If these people are paid at the public purse, the public need to know. This cannot be covered up. If they don't want to be paid out of the public purse, that's fine. If they want to keep their private life, fine. Keep it private. But then they have to leave the job and go and find private work. The Scottish Tories blasted the revelations as shocking, especially as so many Scots are stuck on waiting lists for operations. Conservative Shadow Health Secretary Dr Sandesh Gillane said the 1 in 7 Scots suffering on an NHS waiting list, and my dedicated colleagues on the front line will be shocked at these revelations. The SNP's mismanagement of our health services resulted in my frontline colleagues being overworked and under-supported. And we did the video yesterday. You've got record numbers of vacancies. And indeed, some of the vacancies have been vacant so long that they're no longer counted. It's deemed that their posts are unfillable and therefore they've abandoned the posts. This is how bad it is. And it's getting worse because they're putting the taxes up and the taxes are hitting right at that level where the doctors are. So why would you as a doctor want to come and work in Scotland? Said many health boards are struggling to cope and they've been put into special measures, and it's totally unacceptable that the NHS head honchos are busy feathering their own nests. It's a bit rich coming from Gillane, who spent £3,000 on pictures of himself and tried to fob that off on the taxpayer, but he is at least right on this. And it is wrong. It is so wrong, you know. And so you've got Neil Gray, a man, like I say, out of his depth, hasn't got a clue, and he's letting this happen. The NHS is falling apart. It's getting worse day by day by day. It's going to implode, and it's going to implode very, very quickly. Probably under the watch of Neil Gray, because he doesn't know what he's doing. He's never had a department that big before. This isn't ticking boxes like it was at Energy. This is real people. And that's the problem. He hasn't got an ability. Being SNP, he's like almost a psychopath. He doesn't know how to deal with normal people. Because he lives in that little SNP bubble of hate, doesn't he? And so he probably doesn't even know where the local NHS hospital is. Guarantee he's booper. Anyway, I shall stop there and come up. Next time you're taking a, wife, child, parent or whatever to hospital because they're ill or an emergency or whatever, watch as the doctors and nurses run around hectically, overworked, stressed, unable to deal with you quickly. And as you sit there in A&E for 12 hours, count your blessings that those at the top have had a big pay rise because the hospital is working so very, very well. And then ask why Neil Gray, a man who has no idea what he's doing, is letting it happen. To be fair, he probably doesn't know, because I suspect he doesn't really engage with the job. It's too much for him. It's overwhelming him, and his brain is just shutting down and not dealing with it. This is what happens when you get an idiot like Humza Yousaf promoting an even bigger idiot like Neil Gray into a job that actually requires brains and talent. It's going to die, isn't it? The NHS is falling apart, and it's on its last legs. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and I'll speak to you later. Bye.